Our today's topic for the lecture is functions and disorders of cerebellum. In the last lecture, we had discussed the functional divisions of cerebellum and the internal architecture of cerebellum in detail. So today we will discuss the functions and disorders of cerebellum. Next. The control of equilibrium, it is, as you know, that it is the main function of vestibulocerebellum. And vestibulocerebellum, how it works, if there is any change in the body position or head position, there is acceleration, angular or the linear acceleration, then labyrinthine afferent sends the information to vestibulocerebellar tract, and then the reflex correction of the muscle tone is brought about with the help of the information is conveyed to the cerebellovestibular tract and the vestibulospinal tract and the maintenance of the body equilibrium. So in this format, this vestibulocerebellum, it controls the equilibrium of our body. The tone and posture, as I had told you in the last class also, it is controlled. Main function is of spinocerebellum. Whenever there is change in body position, the proprioceptors, they send the information to the via spinocerebellar, cuneo and the tectocerebellar tracts, and they convey the information to spinocerebellum, and then from there is the reflex correction, information is conveyed and the reflex correction of the muscle tone takes place. With the help of, these are the tracts which convey the message, that is the cerebellovestibular tract, cerebelloreticular tract, vestibulospinal and reticulospinal tract. And they help in conveying the information and maintenance of the posture. New posture is maintained. Next. So this is the circuit. If we see the circuit of how this vestibulocerebellum it functions, that is the mossy fibers from the muscle, mossy fiber from the muscle and the joint afferent to the body, they carry the sensation by dorsal spinocerebellar tract, that is DSCBT, that is dorsal spinocerebellar tract. By that, the information is conveyed to the vermis area and then to the vestigial, this is the deep nucleus of the cerebellum, and from the vermis to the cerebellum, and then from here the information, the orders, they are conveyed to the lateral vestibular nuclei and the reticular formation, and then from the reticular formation the leg lower motor neurons. This is the circuit diagram of how this vestibulocerebellum it works in controlling the posture. Now the head balance, how the head balance is controlled with the help of vestibulocerebellum. The circuit for that is the neck muscle proprioceptors. These are the inputs, the neck muscles proprioceptors and the vestibular apparatus semicircular canals. And they convey the message to the lateral vestibular nuclei, and from here directly some of the flocculonodular lobe and then these lateral vestibular nuclei, they also receive the output of the cerebellum, and then the lateral and the medial vestibulospinal tract, they control the lower motor neurons of the neck, and they help in the balancing the head region. So this is the circuit diagram of how vestibular cerebellum is involved in controlling the posture and the head balance. Now this circuit diagram, it conveys how this spinocerebellum is involved in controlling the voluntary control of the limb movements. This limb muscle joint input, it can paramedian region of the median of the cerebellum, and then to the interposed nuclei, that is the paravermal region, this interposed nuclei. From here the contralateral, the information is contralateral, ventrolateral thalamus and to the motor cortex. Then from the motor cortex, the corticospinal tract. They also carry the information to the flexor limb of lower motor neuron and the contralateral red nuclei. The interposed nuclei also conveys the information to the contralateral red nuclei. And this way, from here the rubrospinal tract, this rust is the rubrospinal tract. It controls it sends the information to the lower motor neuron, and the control and voluntary control of the limb movements is carried out. This is the whole diagram. It shows the circuit diagram of spinocerebellum, how it controls the voluntary movement of the limbs. And this is the circuit diagram showing how cerebrocerebellum is controlling it function along with the motor cortex and help in planning of a motor movement. It is involved in how the cerebrocerebellum is involved in planning of the motor movement. From this supplementary motor cortex, primary motor cortex, then sensory cortex and the posterior parietal cortex, all they are connected to the pontine nuclei, and then the pontine nuclei they are receiving the information, or they are conveying as well as they are conveying to the cerebrocerebellum part of the nuclei and the dentate nucleus. This dentate nucleus, it conveys the orders to the contralateral ventrolateral thalamus, and it is connected to the motor cortex, and then through the corticobulbar and the brainstem. The brainstem is connected with the motor cortex via corticobulbar tract, and from the brainstem the information is conveyed to the various descending tracts to the lower motor neuron. So this is the circuit, how this cerebrocerebellum is involved in the speech and cognitive movements. That is the planning of the movement, the cerebrocerebellum is involved. The main function, the cerebellum is mainly, it controls all the aspects of the movement. The cerebellum, like the rate of the movement, force of the movement, distance of the movement, and the depth of the movement. All the aspects of the movements, they are controlled by the cerebellum. That is voluntary movements. And main function, how it functions, the main function of mainly the cerebellum, it functions as turn on, turn off and turn on output signals from the cerebellum. These are the turn on and turn off output, and turn off and turn on outputs. These are the signals which are released from the cerebellum. Like whenever if there is initiation of a movement, the cerebellum guide agonist will be turned on, and once there is cessation towards the end of the movement or the cessation of the movement, the antagonistic muscles, they are turned off, and this way this turn on and turn off mechanisms they work. As I had told you in the last class, that the Purkinje cell fibers, they learn to correct the motor errors rolled by the role of the climbing. That is, the climbing fibers, they help in learning the new motor skills by repeating the movements. This we had discussed in detail in the last class. Then, the cerebellum, it controls the degree of the motor enhancement and the inhibition at the end, degree of motor enhancement by the cerebellum at the onset of contraction, and the degree of inhibition at the end of contraction, and the timing of these all are learned by the experience. That is, how any movement it is taking place, the timing and which muscle has to be contracted and which muscle has to be inhibited, these are all controlled by the cerebellum. Next. Now, the other functions, the functions of cerebellum, first is the damping function. Damping function is the cerebellum, it prevents, it makes any voluntary movement precise one. That is, it helps in the cerebellum, it prevents the pass pointing. It makes the action complete, that it prevents the exaggerated muscular activity, make the muscular activity a precise one, and it helps make this action, make the muscle activity precise, prevent the exaggerated muscular activity, and then it makes the voluntary activities smooth and accurate one. They are these informations, this way it helps in damping function is brought about. The main function of this damping is brought about it is the spinocerebellum which control this damping action. Next. The coordination of the ballistic movement, this is spinocerebellum, it is the main function of the spinocerebellum. That is ballistic movement, that is the repetitive fast movements. These are just for example, just like the typing. Typing, it's a repetitive action. These functions, the repetitive action of the muscles, this action is controlled, coordinated action, how much muscles of the fingers, which muscle, how much pressure should be there, and which muscle of the finger should be contracting and which should be relaxing. This is all controlled by spinocerebellum, and this brings about the coordination of the ballistic movement. That is the ballistic move. These are known as ballistic movements, fast, repetitive, skilled movements. These are the ballistic movements, and examples are typing, cycling, and dancing. They help in controlling this spinocerebellum. It mainly controls the ballistic movements, and the cerebrocerebellum, it helps in coordination of the ballistic movements, and this help in learning the ballistic movements. The cerebrocerebellum or the corticocerebellum portion it helps in learning the ballistic movements. Next. Then planning of sequential movements. Then any movement, that is this is the function of cerebellum. Any complex motor movement, there are number of motor movements, they forms a complete action, and the sequencing of those motor movements, and the timing, sequencing and timing, they are the function of the cerebrocerebellum, and it planning and plays an important role in timing, programming of the movement during the learning process. If you are learning any complex motor activity, then the sequencing and the planning is done with the help of cerebrocerebellum, and it is learned with the help of spinocerebellum. Next. Now, the cerebellum also functions as a comparator. What is that comparator function? That it compares the intended motor activity and the actual motor activity. That is, it receives, as in the last class I had told you, that from the ventral horn or the anterior horn, the ventral spinocerebellar tract, it conveys the afference copy of all all the information which has reached to the anterior horn. And that is from the extremities, it is receiving the information, and the cerebrocerebellum, it receives the copy of the actual action which has to be performed. So the cerebellum, it compares the actual action which has to be performed. It has received the information from the supplementary motor area and the motor area, and then the parietal cortex, posterior parietal cortex, and all information it has received in the cerebrocerebellum, and that gives the intended action. And now it also receives what action has been performed in the extremities via the afferent copy, which has received via ventral spinocerebellar tract. It compares the two action, and if the action performed is not the intended action or the action desired, the cerebellum brings about the correction in that, and it brings about the correction, and it makes that the intended action is performed. That is the function that is known as the comparator function of the cerebellum. Next. Then, cerebellum, it acts as a servo mechanism. That is another function of cerebellum. That is, it corrects any disturbance or interference in performing the skilled work. And once the skilled work it is learned, the sequential movements, they will be performed without any interruption. If there is any disturbance, corticocerebellum will immediately correct by comparing. It will compare the action, and this way this servo mechanism is performed. That is the action. Next. Now, that is the control. This is the servo mechanism. It is the comparator. It acts as a comparator of the servo mechanism. Cerebellum, as I had told you, that cerebellum, it receives the information from the periphery as well as from the center, and then it combines the two, and then it compares the two, and the error is calculated, and the corrective steps they are taken up, and the signals, then motor cortex via thalamus, and then brainstem nuclei, and then down to the anterior horn, extrapyramidal. This is the pathway how the output signal, corrective output signals, they are conveyed from the thalamus. The thalamus via from the cerebellum. Cerebellum, it conveys to the motor cortex via thalamus, and then to the brainstem nuclei by the corticobulbar tract, and down to the anterior horn from the extrapyramidal tract. And this way, this voluntary movements, they are controlled by the cerebellum. Next. Now, this is the feedback, how the movements, they are made smooth ones. That is by feedback control, and there are two types of control, feedback control and feed-forward control. Feedback control, it is the comparator. That is the correction of the peripheral movements. This is the circuit, how it works. It primarily works from the spinocerebellum. This is the feedback control. And the feed-forward control, that is the spinocerebellum, primary motor cortex will convey to the thalamic nuclei. It is two-way program. Then the pontine nuclei, and from the dorsocerebellar tract, the spinocerebellar receives the actual peripheral movement which has taken place, and this conveys to the pontine nuclei via the deep nuclei of the spinocerebellum, then the end to the ventrolateral. There are three outputs from the spinocerebellum, one to the ventrolateral thalamic nuclei, pontine nuclei, and to the reticular formation. From the ventrolateral nuclei, they are also receiving the primary motor cortex, and they are conveying the information to the primary motor cortex. That is, this is the intended movement which is conveyed, and which is conveyed via the corticospinal tract, and this is medial and lateral reticulospinal tract, the movement. Now, this corrective feedback, this is the part for the corrective feedback. Now, the spinocerebellum, it corrects that the intended movement or the desired movement has not taken place, and therefore, it's a spinocerebellum, it corrects the intended movement and make the movement smooth one. If it is not corrected by spinocerebellum, by comparing the two, the movement will be not a smooth one, it will be a jerky one. So spinocerebellum, after receiving the input from the actual movement which has occurred, it makes the movement and it compares the intended movement and make the correction in the, it corrects the output of the lower motor neurons and make the movement smooth one. This is a feedback control mechanism. Now, the feed forward circuit, how it corrects the error or it predicts. It helps in, this feed forward circuit helps in, it works rapidly. It is the predicted programmed movements. That is how this motor supplementary and the premotor areas, they are connected to the cerebrocerebellum, and the cerebrocerebellum via this track, that is this way it is the intended, this is the program. Here the cerebrocerebellum, it works along with the multiple supplementary motor area, and it helps in the pre-planning of the motor movements and help in this is the feed forward circuit, how it works. That is the primary, it again conveys to the primary motor cortex, and the primary motor cortex, the output is sent to this red nucleus and the lower motor neurons. They function and control the motor cortex and control the lower motor neuron and help in programming of the cerebrocerebellum, help in programming of the movement, and this circuit is known as the feed forward control mechanism. Now, the cerebellum also controls as I had talked in the last lecture about the alpha gamma linkage, and cerebellum also controls this alpha gamma output. How it controls the alpha motor neurons, the excitatory output. This is the excitatory, as I had told you in the last class, that the cerebellum has always the output of the deep nuclei, it is always excitatory. And whenever this excitatory output, if there is any damage to any damage to the cerebellum, it will lead to the disturbance in the alpha gamma linkages, and this help in this from the brainstem output, the alpha motor neuron output is controlled, and it helps in maintenance of muscle tone, and it also controls the reflex activity, but if reflex activity is also affected by controlled by the cerebellum. Next. Now, if there is any damage, the damage of the cerebellum can occur in the cortical region or the deep nuclei or the both areas. If it is in the cortical region, the cerebellum will, usually the effect is, it is not the permanent one. But if the deep nuclei, they are damaged, then the defects will be permanent one. In case of cerebellum, if there is no paralysis of the muscle, if there is damage to the cerebellum, the cerebellar disorder never accompanied with the paralysis of the muscles, and the reflex activity, they are normal. Sometimes the knee jerk, it becomes pendular in case of cerebellar disorder. There is no sensory deficit is associated with the cerebellar disorders. It is all associated with cerebellar associated with hypotonia. Why it is associated with hypotonia? Because the cerebellum, as I had told you, that it influences the alpha-gamma linkage and help in the output of the deep nuclei, cerebellar deep nuclei is always, it is excitatory and it helps in maintenance of the muscle tone. So if there is damage to this area, cerebellum, then there will be, the muscle tone will not be maintained and therefore it leads to hypotonia. Now, if there is another thing, symptom of this cerebellar disorder, it is ataxia, that is the incoordination of the motor activity. Then there is another symptom will be inability to carry out long-term adjustments in the motor response. Then there is defect in the vestibulo-ocular reflex, which leads to the pathological nystagmus. Next. Now, the cerebellar ataxia. The cerebellar ataxia, it manifests in various features. Like first one is drunken gait. Drunken gait is the broad-based gait, and the movements, they are just, that is, if the person is suffering from cerebellar disorder or the cerebellum is damaged of any person, the person will move or person will walk like a drunken man. That is, the base of the gait will be it's a broad base, and the person will not be able to control the motor movements. Then the next one is the scanning speech. Scanning speech means if there is cerebellar ataxia is there, the person is not able to speak out the words smoothly. There will be a pause after each syllable. That is, if I want to speak mouth, the mouth will not come out smoothly mouth. It will be that way. That is the speech becomes as if a child is speaking or a child who is learning to speak. That way the speech it becomes. That is the scanning of speech. Now, then another thing is dysmetria or the past pointing. That is the action of the person. If the cerebellum is damaged, that there will not be a pinpointed approach to the object. If we want to, like, if we want to perform, the action will be wavered. It will be either away, it will be not exactly. If I want to, for example, if I want to hold this scale, I won't be moving my hand directly. My hand will not come directly. It will go this way or this way, and then it will be able to catch this scale. That is known as dysmetria or the pass pointing, which can be tested by the finger nose test. That is, when we bring about our finger to touch the nose, tip of the nose, what will happen? The finger will not come directly to the tip of the nose. It will move ahead, or it will move ahead, and that is known as pass pointing. That is not pointing to the exact destination. There is disturbance in judging the length or the distance of movement, and that is why there will be a disturbance. It is associated. The cerebellar damage is associated with a disturbance in judging the length of the movement or the distance of the movement. That is known as dysmetria or the pass pointing. Now, another feature of this cerebellar ataxia, it is manifest as intention tremors. What are intention tremors? That is, if a person tries to hold anything, what will happen? The hand will not move smoothly and hold the object. That is, if I try to, for example, if I try to hold this hold this scale with my another hand, that is with my right hand, then what will happen? My hand will not move directly to this, but what will happen? It will shake. It will shake and then only it will be able to hold this scale. It is not. That is, there will be, I am trying to hold the scale, but this movement is not smooth one. It is shaky movement is there and before holding, but after holding there are no tremors, and otherwise there are no tremors in the hand. But only when I am trying to perform or when I am trying to hold any object, my hands will show the tremors, and that is known as the intention tremors. So cerebellar damage, if cerebellar damage, it is associated with the intention tremors, whereas the basal ganglia, it is associated with resting tremors. So there are two types of tremors, intention tremors and resting tremors. So resting tremors, they are associated with basal ganglia, and we will discuss that we will learn that when we will learn the basal ganglia. And intention tremors are always associated with cerebellar disorders, and this cerebellar ataxia, it manifests in the form of intention tremors. These intention tremors are whenever you are intended to perform a work, or you are intended to catch hold of any object, the hands, they show tremors in the hand, shaky movement is there, and that is known as the intention tremors. Now, it is the cerebellar ataxia, it also manifests as the rebound phenomena. That is, whenever a complex movement is performed and the person is not able to perform it properly, and there occurs a rebound phenomena. Then the next is the dysdiadochokinesia. That dysdiadochokinesia is the person is unable to perform the supination pronation movement swiftly. If we ask the person to perform the supination pronation and supination quickly, the person is not able to perform a smooth function like this. This way the person is not able to perform. What his performance will be? First this way, and then there is a pause, then this way, and always there is it is not the rapid one, but a slower one. That is known as dysdiadochokinesia, or then there is decomposition of the movements takes place in the cerebellar ataxia. That is, the movement is not a smooth one and it is not a swift one. It is jerky, shaky, and it's with pause, or every movement will be with a pause, and it is not a continuous smooth movement. So these are the features of cerebellar ataxia. Cerebellar ataxia manifest in this. These are the features in which the cerebellar ataxia manifests. That is, first is drunken, I repeat, that is drunken gait, staining speech, dysmetria or the past pointing, intention tremors, rebound phenomenon, and dysdiadochokinesia and decomposition of the movement. That is all about the functions and disorders of the cerebellum. Thank you very much.